Welcome to episode 40 of the Mindful Mama Movement podcast. I'm Shannon Kinney-Dew, creator of A Free Spirit Life.
And I'm Ashley Walburn, owner of Home Holistic. And together we are bringing back the Mindful Mama Movement podcast.
Mindful mothering is about nurturing yourself while you nurture others. It's about consciously awakening to your inner wisdom, strength, power, and peace as a mother in this changing world.
From discovering your newborn to accepting and loving the people who've left your nest, our movement is inspiring mothers to be authentic and to live empowered lives.
We're so happy you're here. Hello, beautiful mamas. Thanks so much for being here today. Ashley and I are excited to share this conversation that we had with Stef Tousignant. She is an author and parenting expert, and she calls herself an imperfect parent and a gratitude nerd. She is going to talk today about how the daily practice of gratitude has changed her outlook on life and how it has changed her parenting style. We talk about how to savor the special moments in life, the ways to be more present in our parenting, and how having a gratitude practice helps you feel better. It helps you feel happier in life. And it's really a beautiful practice in self-compassion because we're all human. We're all learning this parenting thing as we're going through it. And we want to learn how to be softer with ourselves, how to be gentle with ourselves, and how to be compassionate because we're learning. We're all learning this as we go. And it's an imperfect, messy journey, that's for sure. We even talk about mess, and she really gives us this beautiful way to look at the mess or the imperfect moments in our life to really see them as examples of a well-lived life. You're going to love this conversation, and we're just really excited to jump on in. To learn more about Stef, go to her website, parentingwithgratitude.com, and sign up for her 90-day gratitude challenge. Thank you so much for listening, and enjoy the show. Hello, everyone. We're so excited to be back with another episode. Hi, Ash.
Hi, welcome everybody. We're so excited to be here. We had a whole week off.
Yes, and we're here with a new friend, Stef Tousignant, and I'm just going to let her introduce herself to you. So, Stef, hi. Thanks for being here.
Hi, nice to meet you guys. It's nice to see you in person instead of in my ears. Yeah, so I like to say I'm an imperfect parent first and a parenting expert second. And my son gives me a hard time. He's a teenager. He gives me a hard time about saying I'm an imperfect parent, even though I'm a parenting expert. But it's like, wait until you're a parent. And I'm also a former professional nanny. So I was a nanny for 20 plus years. Yeah. And mainly with toddlers, newborns, babies. So under 5, that group. I have 2 kids. I have just turned 11 and a 14-year-old. And I love to talk to parents about parenting with gratitude.
How did you get into that interest? Was there something, and I mean, gosh, thinking about spending so many years with that young age group, and now you're parenting for the first time teen and tween ages. What got you into like this focus on gratitude? Was there like a series of things or like just a moment that hit you that's like, okay, something's got to change?
I mean, I definitely feel like we have, as mothers, we have our enough is enough moments, and there are plenty that I can point to along the way. I don't think we end up having just one. But for me, I started these journals back in the day, maybe about 7 or 8 years ago. I started making these journals. I've always been an entrepreneur, and I wanted to just kind of work on daily habits. So I was like, I'll just make a journal for myself and try it out. And I started doing it, and it was great. And I liked it. It scratched my type A, itch. And I just did it for a while. My girlfriends all have these like old journals in their house. They help me out, And along the way, I started doing gratitude as part of that process. And it just worked. Do you know what I mean? Like something about it felt right to me. And I think that along the way, I learned more and more and more about why that was. And I like to say that I am a gratitude nerd or enthusiast. I'm not, an expert on it at all. In fact, I think probably if you asked any of my friends if I was like a grateful person or that was like something like an attribute, most people wouldn't list that as the first thing with me. So it's like my stretch goal in life in a way. It's like this. I want to appreciate the beauty around me. I want to remember the good things. And it has helped me to do that. It's really what's really interesting is that it's done this thing with my self-doubt that I never realized would happen. And it was sort of like I was listening to you guys the other day when you did your New Year's episode, and one of your sons had a party at the house.
Ashley's.
It was
Ashley's
Ashley's
son, 19-and-a-half-year-old son.
Oh gosh. And so, but I'm sitting there and I'm listening and I'm like, oh, Ashley, she really knows her stuff. Like she is not bad momming herself like at all. And it's like that's the goal. I really feel like there's for me, for the longest time, for at least the first 10 years of parenthood, I couldn't understand why some moms just kind of like were like, yeah, well, these things happen, right? And I'm sitting there going, I am like a horrible mother. Like I'm really bad at this.
I'm the only one that's really screwing this thing up. Yeah.
Right. And then I would listen to moms be like, it was just, I made a mistake and it's okay. And I'm like, is it that simple? Like, wow, so there was this gap between the shame game, right? And then actually what guilt is really for, which is sort of like, yeah, I kind of feel guilty, but like, I'm learning from it. I'm a human. I'm a learner. It's part of the journey. I'm not a bad mom. I make mistakes because I'm learning. And there's that big gap. And so for me, I use gratitude to prove to myself that I'm a good mom. Mm-hmm. And it helps me to buy in. And then I can make that jump to compassion, that jump to, acceptance into mistakes and get out of that shame, blame cycle, right? That we can get really stuck in as parents. And so the way I use gratitude is I make a list every morning. I mean, it's pretty basic, right? At the beginning, maybe 5 years ago, I would do a list of 10. And 10's a lot. But 10 was purposeful because I sit down and I look over my yesterday. And after 3 or 4 easy ones, like, I have heat, I'm healthy, my children are healthy, you run out. And then you have to push your brain to look for new things. And that's where the rewiring happens. That's where you really have to search your yesterday and you go, oh my goodness. After school, he ran up to me and gave me a hug. I can't believe I forgot that, right? And all those little moments that make parenting amazing and what it really is about start coming back. And it's just this magical thing that happens, but it takes work.
Feels very intentional.
Yes.
I'm just writing notes. I love it. A lot of what you're saying and the rewiring happens. I love the rewiring happens. Just that it feels like such a honoring of this thing that is really hard. My honest account of a really hard day in my parenting journey has been a really important part of my life. The rewiring happened because I was like, whoa, like I'm never having this fight again. I'm never, we got to do this differently. And I've been doing a daily mantra, and almost every single time I'm speaking to him, almost every single time that I say a common peaceful relationship with my child is all that matters. A common peaceful relationship with my child is all that matters. And I might say it 400 times in a day, but we've really had a rough last 2 years. And contentious, he's picking at me and then I'm like, I'm so tired of you talking to me like this. I try so hard. And that quickly, this was January 1st until now we're, what are we? Mid-February, that just something simple for me, and I'm not even writing it down, but I'm saying the same thing, that this is what really matters. So many moms, as a therapist, and I'm with moms in prenatal yoga and mommy baby yoga, that every single mom that I talk to, the most important thing is that they have a positive relationship with their children, and they are present and remember the magical moments. And so that child getting off the bus and hugging me, or still falling asleep in my arms, or whatever it is, that those little boop, that little moment of magic is what we're doing this for.
Yeah.
And if we're only remembering all the hard shit, then it's really hard to find gratitude and peace and learn from. So I love the rewiring happens. And I love that you do this in the morning. Does it feel like it sets the stage for your day?
Oh yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It helps me. It has helped me over the years really kind of like start with a fresh, like not even a fresh, it's sort of like I know that there's a lot of negativity in there in my brain. I hear you, but there's also these good parts too. And so it helps me to shift my perspective. It's not saying to all the, negative stuff, like you need to be quiet. It's just like, yeah. Let's focus on this other stuff. This other stuff's really important too. It might not be as loud as maybe a mistake I made yesterday or the tantrum in Target, you know what I mean? But it's important too.
I had a mom years ago, I've probably talked about this before on this show, but that mommy baby yoga used to be, before COVID, tons of people would come, and I'd have 30 moms packed in my little yoga class, and we're going around and we would do a quick check-in, and who are you and how are you, basically. And we got to this mom, and she's holding her baby that's maybe 3 months old, and she starts bawling. And she goes, I thought it was gonna be magical. And she was a wreck.
Yeah.
And this is not magical. And I said, I think there's magical moments. And when we take a breath or focus on that thing that we're grateful for, then that sustains our, ability to do the hard parts. But we are kind of hardwired. And I don't know if you would like to speak on that, but I think we're kind of hardwired to notice what's bad. It makes me think of the cave woman in us, that we were just looking around for, is that a bat? Do I have enough fire? That we naturally kind of see all the stuff that's going wrong instead of all these little things that are going right. Like, look at that. I've got a roof right over my head. Oh, my kids have clothes.
It's true. I think that we have a tendency to also look for answers outside of ourselves for these problems too. And that negativity, you just want it's the negativity bias, right? And it has kept us alive for a very, very long time. And it's a valid part of our human existence. But it's loud. But in reality, there's other things that are going on too. I mean, there's parts of ourselves that we can listen to if we listen carefully that are telling us that we're doing a good job. It's there. They're there. It's just quieter. And you have to learn to stop looking outside for the things that fix the problem. Like because I am a professional nanny, I cared for children for 10 years before I had my own. 10 years. Plus, I had 4 siblings that were younger than me. So I've been taking care of children since who knows, forever. And I loved being a nanny. And no matter what the parenting style of the home was, I did my job and I did it really, really well. And I would go home and I would do my thing and I'd come back the next day and I'd do it well. And it was rewarding and it was great. And I was like, I can't wait for this to be my experience. And then I had a baby and it was 100% not my experience at all. And I was like, what the hell? I need to start fixing this problem. I am triggered all the time. I'm reactive. My husband is a mess. he's not paying attention to me anymore. Like he's not doing anything. Like it's the general. And so I just searched and searched and searched outside myself. I became such a really like amazing nanny because of this. Like I educated the heck out of myself. And I looked outside myself for so long, none of it did anything for me. If anything, every workshop I went to just made me feel more like a failure because I would go home, I'd try it, wouldn't work, I'd get mad, I would yell at my kids, and then the whole cycle would just start all over again. And so it was only until I realized I'm just done with this. Like, I'm just done. I need just to be happy. Like, none of this is working. And so I just stopped and I just decided I need to just work on me. I want to just be happy. That's it. The kids, they'll have to figure themselves out, you know? And it really does take that. It takes that turning of that magnifying glass and back on yourself and looking and saying, okay, what's going on here? Right. And it really, it isn't a pleasant experience until you start making it a pleasant experience for yourself.
The theme that I keep hearing is, this learning. I really love how you said, I'm human, because I'm here. We're learning this together. And I think that's such a gentle parenting style. It's such a gentle, act of self-compassion. And I saw on your website, I wanted to read this because I think this is really beautiful. When you are talking about how to practice gratitude, you say, remind yourself that your children don't know your past traumas or the emotional burdens you may carry. Then remind yourself that they are new to this planet. Go through your day and observe your children with the same awe and wonder they observe the world. I think that's just so sweet because it reminds us that they're here learning. They've never been kids before. They've never been in this family unit. We're learning. I think we just are so taught, like you said, from outside of ourselves. Like we just kind of adopt this belief that we should just know what we're doing and that everyone else seems to have it together. And, we're just going to fake it here that we know what we're doing. And I love that attitude of I'm learning, they're learning. How can I, tune into their sense of curiosity and wonder? And how can I turn that back on myself?
I definitely agree. And I couldn't really give myself the self-compassion until I proved to myself that I was a good mom. And that's why that list really mattered to me, to my type A personality personally. And for other people, it's other practices. But until you can look and say, no, I'm starting from a place of good, then self-compassion actually becomes a little bit easier. It doesn't feel as like hokey. You know what I mean? Because it's like, okay, all right, this is okay. It's a mistake. We're learning, we're growing, and then empathy can spring from that too. And that's just, so important for parenting.
For anyone who's listening who might be hearing us say, like, you have to be happy all the time. Let's talk a little bit about that distinction, because being grateful and having that state of gratitude, you're not telling us that, oh, we have to be happy all the time, right?
Not at all. If anything, they've like not proven that gratitude makes you happier. It just shifts your perspective away from the focus, that really habitual, even, what we're born with, focus on the negative. Right. It's the attention that we put on the negative. It gets shifted. And so it doesn't make it go away. That actually, gratitude needs a contrast. It needs something to bounce off of. It can't just survive in a vacuum. And so, that's why a lot of experts said that people coming out of the pandemic were probably going to be more grateful than, ever before. And I could see that. When I was sitting there with my family every day, I was just like, wow, okay, I have a choice here, right? I have a choice. And the choice I made was to be grateful because my son was 13. I wouldn't have seen him every day. It was amazing. I got to watch him. I gave him a phone right then, and I got to watch how he used it. Like, I didn't that's a gift. It's a gift. And so these things, they're just as important. And I don't want to do that again. No one wants to be in their house with their children again. Let's be realistic. Forever. Felt like forever. But they do happen. And things happen, bad things happen. And so for me, it's just a reminder that there's a choice to where we put our thought energy in the end.
That's right. Well, Ashley asked our community a few questions.
So I asked our community that we were going to talk to you and like what would be their gratitude questions. The first thing is I would ask how to best show gratitude to your kids, even on the tough and hard days. And then she says, I find myself telling them my feelings and that they are frustrating me by not listening, etc. Surely there's a better way to go about it.
Interesting. I love this question. I don't do this. I don't show my kids gratitude.
I mean, occasionally, right?
I mean, I do, but I think I would qualify it more as appreciation. And I think maybe in small acts of service, I would, if they're like going to help me with the groceries, I would say thank you. I think it's really a lot simpler than we're making it. I think it's just about modeling the basic behavior you want to see. And then if you want to take it further, then you can model your own gratitude practice. That's really when people ask me, how do I teach my children to be grateful, or how do I teach my children to be not so entitled? I say, it starts with you and what you're doing, in our house, I do a gratitude journal every morning, and they don't see me do it, but they know that I have my quiet time and my alone time, and I've explained what I do. But I did for a long time do 3 things I'm grateful for and put them up on a Post-it on the kitchen wall to start that practice. And I didn't make anyone do it. It was just sort of like, this is what I'm doing. Mom's doing a weird thing again, and I'm just doing it. And then it was like, 6 months or so that went by, and I started a new thing. And I said, for the winter, we're going to cut out snowflakes because I know you're obsessed. And we are going to write one thing we're grateful for on the snowflake. Let's just do it. Let's make it a gratitude snowstorm. We'll hang it in the kitchen. It'll be like part of the decor for the winter. It'll be fun. And so we started doing that. And we do that every year now. And they really like it, actually. And
they'll do that with their kids. I mean, they'll do something like that.
Oh, they'll definitely do something like that with their kids when they're older, for sure. And then the other thing that we now do, that now that they've been doing gratitude for 3 or 4 years or just watching me, is as part of their morning checklist, which they have a morning checklist because I'm type A. There's one thing that says you need to have 3 pieces of gratitude. And they have a Post-it note there, and they can either put it on the wall or they can just write it down and call it a day. But that's part of their morning routine every morning. And I don't care what they write. And I think that's something really, really important to point out.
Right.
I never criticize.
Throw my expectations.
Don't expect them to put, Mom, I'm grateful for Mom.
Oh, no. But guess what? They do.
They do.
They put it at least once or twice a week. And I look at those on the wall sometimes when I'm feeling really, shitty. And I'm like, oh yeah, okay. It's there.
For that moment, they were grateful. Yeah.
It's great. I love it. That's probably the best part. That was a perk I didn't know even existed in that practice. Yeah. But they write weird stuff too. They write like Minecraft and socks, and they'll like look out the window and be like rain. I'm like, okay.
Boom, boom, boom. Check my list.
Whatever, yeah. Because to me, it's not about what they're doing right now at 11 or 14. It's about what they're going to do or what they're going to say inside of their brain when they're 28, right?
I love the introduction of gratitude by doing that you're introducing that, there's something to be grateful for. That it just feels like a little offering, little eggs in the morning, that there's something to be grateful for, even in the hard moments.
I like to say that gratitude introduces the vocabulary vocabulary of enough into our households.
Yeah.
And in this modern world where it's, everything's on demand and there's not enough time, there's not enough, I don't know, Nerf bullets, there's not enough, what have you. There's enough, right? And we need to have that conversation. And it's an easy way to have that conversation.
We do something at our house where, because I'm a huge journaler as well, but my kids, aren't really interested in writing what they're grateful for. So sometimes at dinner, we might just say, anyone want to share what they're grateful for about their day? So that might be a way to tune in with each other. But one of the things that we do in the evening, just as a way to prepare for sleep, like just to, reflect on your day and think about what you're grateful for, or tell God what you're grateful for as you go to sleep. And it's just that little preparation, wrapping up, teaching that self-reflection you're talking about. And they never, a lot of times they're not going to even tell us, but I like that kind of inner dialogue, teaching our kids that they can do that, even if they're not into writing it or sharing it with other people.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay, I'm going to go to our next question, or kind of statement. Do you have any advice on how to stop the mindset of, it'll be easier when? It's not true. It feels like I'm wishing time away, but I would like to better stop and appreciate this time, even though it's hard. And this particular mom has a baby and a toddler.
Mm-hmm. I could tell.
Hard, frankly. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it's a really good time to talk about what happens after you have a pretty committed practice of gratitude. And the thing that happens is that you begin to learn the skill of savoring. Right. And so those days where you are doing the things that are fun and good, and you're starting to notice them more because you got to put it on the list the next day, right? It becomes bigger. Things become richer and fuller. And so, yes, there is always going to be that wishing for things. I mean, we do this in every aspect of our lives. If you have one salary, you want a better salary. If you have one car, you want the next car. That's just we are pre-wired with that. It's not going anywhere. So the skill that you can learn to counteract that is savoring. And that is part of being a present parent, savoring. And that's something you can teach your kids. You can do that really easily by when you eat an ice cream cone, you can talk about how it tastes. And you can say, this is melty and delicious, and it's making me feel happy, and what have you. You can do it with looking out the window. You can do it when you're on the beach and with the sand. You can do it in all aspects of your life. And it's a skill, just like anything else. And it's so important these days.
I love. Savoring is one of my favorite words. And I'll just give you a short story. My 9-year-old, he got in the habit if he wanted to eat a piece of an apple before he'd go to sleep. And this was, a couple years ago, but he would lay down in the dark and he had to have his piece of apple. And I would lay with him. We'd read stories, I'd rub his feet, and I'm like, just, okay, go to sleep. But he had his apple, and he's just like, and it's just, it sounded it felt, because I was in that stage, this listener, is sharing, when you're just okay, already, go to sleep, just go to sleep, crunching and crunching and crunching. I'm like, what are you doing? Just eat your apple. And he's like, Mom, I'm savoring it. And I'm like, okay, I know we talk about savoring, but in this instant, go to sleep.
I'm done with savoring for the day.
Savor on your own.
Exactly. Savor tomorrow morning. Okay, I have 2 more questions that we have picked out. And sorry to anybody that is not getting picked. We're grateful for all the questions. One thing, and I was kind of talking about this earlier with my child, that I was a calm and peaceful relationship with my child is all that matters. It's been such an important reset for me. She is asking for daily mantras to start the day or say throughout the day. Are there any that you use or that you would recommend?
That's so interesting, because I am writing a book and I have a whole chapter on mantras. So, but for me, I always go back to my intention. It's really what I stick with for a mantra. So I have two. I guess I could give you the one that I use that's really, seems basic, but that's, I'm safe, I'm loved. I generally use that one if I'm feeling dysregulated or what have you. And I usually say sometimes if I'm feeling like the world is out against me, I keep myself safe. I keep loving myself, right? So I make sure that I'm not doing that projection out and making sure that I'm staying here with me because it's up to me to regulate in the end. So there's that. And then the other one I do is it's my intention to be a happy human and to be kind. That's my intention. Everyone has their own why. And for the longest time, my why was just to be a better parent. And I know now that that really wasn't great, but it was better than being a perfect parent. And so this intention has become like this really kind of a fun tracking method for me over the years. And at first it was, I want to be a perfect parent. Then it was, I want to be a better parent. Then it was just like, I want to be a happy human. And I just recently, like last year, added, I want to be a happy human and I want to be kind. And I'm in the process, even now, it's starting to kind of meld and mold again. And it's really quite cool. But I think everyone should really sit down and take a few minutes to really think about their intention when it comes to their lives and their parenting.
Yes, Shannon and I are yoga people, but and I can't remember who wrote it, someone along the way, but that your intention creates your thoughts create your actions, and your actions create your reality. Yeah. And it needs to start with an intention. It's not just like, I need to act right, or I need to like get my kids clothes at the Gap, whatever it is, that my intention is to be kind. And early on, I was screaming at my kids a lot. And that's why I started doing yoga, because I was like, I've got to regulate in a way that it was not modeled for me. And I didn't have that skill really yet. And I was practicing yoga and I'd be like, okay. And I realized in a yoga class, I am sharing my best parts of myself with strangers, people at the grocery store. I'm like, oh, hi, good morning. But then like, get your shoes on, like, come on. And screaming at my kids, like, we gotta go. And that my kids saw this mom, that was like revved up. And my community, was like, oh my God, your mom, she is just the best, that my kids get up, God bless them, all the time. And they're like, let me tell you what she called me last night, that my mantra for years, and it was so important to me, was like, I want to share the best parts of myself with my children.
Yeah.
And so I needed to have access to those best parts. Yeah. Like, yeah. If you don't know that you're coming in hot, one of my kids said to me, he was 15, my oldest, and he goes, man, every time you walk in the house, your guns are already loaded. Oh. And I was like, oh, I didn't even know that. But, I'm like, what are these shoes doing here? I can't even put on this thing. So, I'm like, let me tell you everything you did wrong today. Clean it out. Have you done your homework? We did soccer. And like if I came in like I did, with
yoga.
Yeah, yoga. My yoga mom self, that's a really different way of being. Wouldn't they love that?
It's so true.
Yeah. Okay, this is our final question from Alex. And we've hit on this, but she was saying, in a culture these days that glorifies kind of ungrateful attitudes, how can we be grateful in the moment? I think it would be super helpful to get back to turning this around. For example, instead of complaining about 3-year-old's energy, be able to turn that around to be grateful for such an energetic soul. Of course, we couldn't do this 100% of the time. Do you have any inspiration here?
I do. I do, because I talk about this a lot, and it's about cultural expectations and living in a world that's going to tell you how to think about your dirty house instead of how you feel about your dirty house. Right. And so I would tell the listeners to look at their kitchen sink when it's nice and full and say, this is proof of a well-lived life.
God, I wish somebody would have said that to me when my kids were 1, 2, 3, 4, you know.
Actually, hang that above all of our kitchen sinks.
Right.
And hang that reminder up there. Yes.
And when you walk into your toddler's room and it's a total shit show. Yeah. This is proof of a well-lived toddler life. You buy toys so they can learn and play. If the toys are out on the ground, it's because you're a good mom. They're playing and learning.
Do I really care?
No, it's more important that they're using them. That's the perspective shift that's missing in our culture. No one needs a clean house when you have 4 kids. Not even if you have 1 kid. If your house is clean, who's living there? Right?
Who wants to live there? Really?
Who wants to? Really? I mean, really. But what I've done over the years is I've learned that I have needs about my cleanliness to my house. My needs are not the society's needs, but I do have needs. I have needs and they're different. They're a little different. So what I've done is I've just said, I'm going to let the kitchen go. And then I'm going to see what bothers me the most about it. Right. And what bothers me the most out of the whole house, I've learned, is if my island is cluttered, my life feels cluttered. And so I just make sure my island's clean. That's like one tiny square, like 5 square feet of my entire house. I'm like, oh, it was that simple all this time. Right. But I was buying into this cultural mindset that you need to clean your entire house all the time when you have young children, and it needs to be, Pinterest worthy or something. And it's like, nah, or just one thing that really bothers you needs to be clean. And that's going to help you with mindset. And I'm not saying don't let yourself go. Don't let your house go, but find the things that work for you. And then the rest of it, that's a well-lived life.
And a well-lived childhood, yes. That I think of, I was a younger mom in my community. And so a lot of my kids, same age peers, the parents were 5, 10, 15 years older than me. And I had a few really important things, but this dad that had 3 older boys than my kids, when they were done with their, learn how to ride a bicycle, he just dropped it off at my house one day. And I texted him. I was like, oh my God, Brian, I didn't even know that you were over here. I'm really embarrassed about the way my yard looked.
Yeah.
And this is like a real dad. And he goes, Ashley, right now you're growing boys. One day you'll grow grass. Isn't that great? Just grow the boys right now.
Oh, so true.
Isn't that great?
We have the rest of our lives to organize our
You're gonna guard it one day.
Yeah.
Let the boys kill the grass.
I love this, you beautiful mothers, because we're all in different seasons, and people who are listening to the show are some that, we remember those earlier seasons. And as we get, to teenagers and older, our homes are a different experience. But I love, Stef, how you bringing up the cultural expectation, because we put those pressures on ourselves and then sometimes don't question where these even come from. And it reminds me of our last show when we were talking about family of origin, just pausing, just this awareness to say, where does this pressure that I put on myself, that I put on my kids, where is this coming from? Is this from what I see on Pinterest? Is this from the neighbors? Is this from my childhood? That self-reflection.
Do I love it? Do I love that I'm reorganizing my kids' playroom? Where does that come from? Yeah.
And I like that we just talk, because I used to put so much pressure on myself. But when you say, what works for you, I know that energy and clutter really distract me. And if I'm feeling that in my own home, like your island, I know that's really hard for me to settle and ground. But we are a family of creators. And when I see, every area that I look at in our home, we have places where we make art, but it's like chopping paper and making movies and painting. And I'm like, I just love the simple mindset shift of whenever I catch myself saying, look at this mess, that I can look at this creative household we live in. And our house isn't going to look the same as our next door neighbor. And usually we compare ourselves to either people who don't have kids or, cleaning commercials or whatever. It's like so unrealistic. So asking ourselves, where is this pressure coming from? And, just really reminding ourselves what's important to us. What does a well-lived life really look like?
My kids, I have 4 boys, and I had three and 2.5 years. So they're a year apart in school. So often each of them would have a few people over, and they're mostly boys. And I would walk in my door, like my husband and I would go to dinner, we'd come home and there's 15 pair of, size 12 tennis shoes at my front door. Thank God they all took them off. It was so nice. Thanks, guys. But that I would like, Jesus, like this. And when my kids were like starting to launch, one night there was literally 20 pair of shoes, and I took a picture of it. And I'm like, this is what I'm going to miss. And I'm going to cry that this messy sink.
Yeah.
It's not always going to be this way. All these smelly, gross tennis shoes, that I'm going to miss walking into all of this and this noise in the background. Yeah.
When I vacuum, I intentionally leave little Lego pieces in the corners for that very reminder. It's like someday I'm going to want, I'm going to miss those Lego pieces.
Yeah.
As painful as they are when you step on them. But so, Stef, where can our listeners find out more about you?
Well, my website is parentdifferently.com. And then I am always on Instagram. It's parent_differently. And you can find me there. I have a 90-day gratitude challenge that people can join on my website too. And moms do the whole 90 days. I've noticed. So
we'll put that link in the show notes. And before we go, why don't we share what's something that you feel, Stef, and we'll go to Ashley next. What do you feel grateful for in this very moment?
Oh, I'm just happy that my children are not sick today and that they're at school.
Yay. How about you, Ash?
I am grateful for my life today, that I'm sharing with Shannon. A good friend of mine passed away this week, and she's exactly my age, and left kids that are exactly my kids' age behind. And man, what a shift in perspective when these things happen. But I am grateful that I get to do these hard things with my kids, and that I'm alive and well and able to do the easy days and the hard days. I'm grateful for my life.
Yeah.
Well, I'm grateful for all of you in this moment to just connect in this way with these conversations. The reminder that we're all human, we're all learning, and we can savor even, when it's hard, because we're not alone. I love having these kinds of conversations with you all. So thank you for being here. Thank you, Stef, for being on our show today and sharing your gratitude with us. We really appreciate you.
Thanks so much, Stef.
Thank you so much for listening today. To learn more about Stef, you can go to her website, parentingwithgratitude.com. And to join our mailing list, you can visit mindfulmamamovementpodcast.com. Go to iTunes, review and rate our show. We really appreciate you helping spread the word about our podcast. Share it with your friends. We also have a new Facebook group, so go find us there at Mindful Mama Movement Podcast. Thank you, beautiful moms, for listening and for being part of our community, and we will see you in the next